Today's session is inspired by some paints that I was trying out in a new palette, and they are the super granulation paints in both Volcano and Tundra sets. So while they're a little more muted than the reference photo, I did want to see how they kind of worked in real life. So here we go, let's get started. So I'm doing a no sketch butterfly because, again, the purpose of this is really to see how are these granulating paints going to work, how much water do I need to activate them, and what kind of effects do I get. So when I first went down with a lot of water, I decided, I think I want to go a little more wet on dry, which is what I did for the second half of the butterfly. And either way you decide, you can always go back in on top with another layer. I still don't want a lot of detail, but I just am exploring again what kind of granulation effects can I get with a lot of water versus no water. And while I don't have a true black, I do have kind of a gray color here, so I'm using it to substitute to get those really vivid circular marks that this particular butterfly has. So I'm just trying to be true to the reference photo since I don't have a sketch, just to imply that there are these beautiful markings. And I can see I do need a little more water just to get some of that blended effect that I see in the reference photo. So I'm just adding it on top to invite that paint to spread out. I didn't mention, but these granulation paints are produced by Schmincke, which makes beautiful watercolors. So the quality is really nice, and I can tell they're very vivid, even though the colors are a little more muted. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but when you put it down, you do get a lot of coverage. And the spread is really good when you add a lot of water. And that's really with a granulating paint when you see the most benefits, is when you disrupt those pigments and you add that water. It really starts to spread out and create beautiful patterns. My butterfly here is quite small scale, so we probably won't see that as much, but I am trying to push it to stay loose so that we can get some of that. So while it's wet, I'm just trying to integrate all of these shapes together, and I can also introduce some additional colors. Here I'm trying to show the body of the butterfly. It kind of got lost in the wings, so I'm just giving it a little bit of shape and dimension where the body would be. And then again, just to get a little more granulation, I re-wet it and then introduce more pigment so that it could move around on the paper. So I'm just deepening that gray color up to try to mimic the darker black tone that I see in the reference photo. And now I'm going to start to introduce some of the red and the yellow that I see on the butterfly as well. And the butterfly is still damp, so we should see it start to blend in on the paper itself. And you can see I am being careful to follow the shape of the butterfly. So I'm always going kind of toward the head in the directions that the wings have these striated marks. And I can really do that here on this next layer, the kind of outer rim of the wings. And while I'm not using the exact color in the reference photo, I did change the color so that we see a variation. But I do think the wet on dry effect is appropriate here. You can see the brush marks that it leaves behind, and that does echo those striations that I see on the butterfly wings. So just putting a little bit of that brighter yellow color in. And we'll get that nice blend from the yellow to the orange to the red. So now for the flowers, I really just want them to be very loose style and just show that there are tiny little flowers down here and around the butterfly. But I'm not going to try to draw each of the petals or to be very realistic. You can see I'm adding a lot of that water again to see what kind of granulation effects I can get. And by blending the different colors, I can see how are they going to interact. So I'm just shifting from the kind of violet or orchid type of color to the deeper purple and just changing that up. And then compositionally, I do want to spread them around so that we know the butterfly is kind of within this field of flowers. It's not just a single flower. And then just by identifying some of the centers, I think that's when it really comes across as, oh, these are small, tiny petaled flowers. And then just adding a little hints of green for the leaves or greenery. Again, I'm not really trying to draw each of the leaves or the stems. I'm just suggesting that they're back there. So this is where you kind of take poetic license and do your own thing. If you wanted to fill the entire background and echo what you see in the reference photo, you certainly could. I just wasn't choosing to do that. And here I wanted to add a few more to kind of create that diagonal composition. So I'm adding in, with using the same techniques as I did for the other flowers, I'm just creating more of them to the right of the butterfly. And just looking across the layout, I was evening out those centers so that they all kind of had the same treatment since they were in the same depth of field. So now with the smaller brush, I'm going in on top. The butterfly is pretty dry right now, so I can add a little more of these finer details and get more of the striation marks that I see. I'm also here trying to connect parts, the body, the wings, so that they all work as one harmonious shape. And then being careful to follow the direction of each wing. You know, it points to the head. Then I can create these linear marks. I also think the combination of the more large blended shapes with these sharper striations is a nice pairing. So then just to add the legs in, I'm just using a single color for this, again, just to show, communicate that there are legs grounding that butterfly onto the actual flower. And here I just changed to the red color to go on top of the red shapes for that sort of tone on tone effect for these striated lines. And then again, I was losing the body a little bit, so as I added more detail in the wings, I just wanted to give that head area some more depth. And then last, I feel like I just wanted a little more background, so I'm just going in very softly and gently with a very weak mixture of the green that I used for the leaves, and I'll just blend it together somewhat directionally. I'm following the direction of the butterfly. Again, that was just a compositional decision. And then I'll soften those marks. And then what I like to do when I've added sort of this abstract background is where it touches the subject matter, just deepen those areas a little bit. So you'll see me go in with a little more pigment when the background touches the wings and the flowers. So that's what you see me doing here. And again, that just integrates the shapes a little more, so it's not a subject on top of a background and they don't have any relationship to each other. And while this is probably a subtle technique, I do think it works well. So that's it. Thanks for watching this one in real time for a change. I hope you try to paint a butterfly, whether you use granulating paints or not. Until next time, see you soon.